Hello, everybody. Welcome tonight to the World Narcolepsy Day media training. I hope you're able to find us here as you guys log in. I'll just quickly remind everyone, it is now officially 2 weeks until World Narcolepsy Day. Yay! I'm representing here in my shirt. And we're really excited tonight to have two amazing experts with us. Kylee, hi Kylee.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And where are you tuning in from, joining us from?
I'm on the West Coast in Los Angeles.
Just a few miles down the road.
Yep.
And then we have Kristyn. Hey, Kristyn.
Hi. I'm in Houston, Texas.
Awesome. And we're so excited to have Kristyn and Kylee. They bring two great expertise to this discussion about getting your story featured in the media around World Narcolepsy Day. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the slides that we've prepared. And I just want to really thank Kylee and Kristyn. Both of them are board members for Project Sleep. They dedicate a lot of time to the organization already. And in addition, they volunteer a lot of time and expertise to help prepare this presentation and the resources that we're going to share tonight. So just really grateful. It's just like such an amazing team effort that we have put together here, and really grateful for them for giving so much of their time and energy to this. So what we're going to go over today, some media relations 101, building your media list, crafting your pitch, media relations best practices, what to do once you secure an interview, interviewing tips and tricks, key messages and takeaways, and some health communications best practices. I know it sounds like a lot and really fancy, but I really do think that we've made it pretty simple for you to pitch your story. So again, these are our speakers, and I don't know if you guys want to say anything else about your background, share a little bit about your background in the news and media space. Kristyn?
Oh, okay. Can you hear me? Am I muted? No. Okay. So as Julie said, my name is Kristyn Beecher. I live in Houston and I produce for the CBS affiliate out here, KHOU. I have narcolepsy. I was diagnosed in 2020. And yeah, I'm just really excited to help you guys share your stories.
And how long have you been in news production, Kristyn?
This will be my fifth year, 5 years in the industry. Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Okay. And Kylee, share a little bit about your background.
So I'm Kylee Keskerian, and like Julie mentioned, I live right down the road from her in Los Angeles. And I am a PR professional. I've been doing it for about 8 years now. I started off in nonprofit communication, and then I transitioned into the tech world. And today I am part of a consultancy, and we have really innovative tech clients, and we specialize in top tier media relations. So while Kristyn is on the media side of things and working at like those outlets, I'm on the other side of that, and I'm the one reaching out to folks like Kristyn to try to get stories placed in the news. So I think we both bring a really interesting perspective to this conversation. And Kristyn's super good at what she does, and it's insightful for me to get her feedback as someone on the other side trying to get attention from folks like her. So that's really exciting. My connection to narcolepsy is that I have a dear friend, Julie Flygare, who I care deeply about, and that is why I am an advocate of Project Sleep and all the work that the organization's doing.
Yes, we were so lucky. We met at Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. We were both there for a few years, I believe. And I don't know if we were exactly bunkmates, but we were pretty close, like in the cubicle land.
Right.
We were kind of, our cubes were close. So that's how we got to know each other. And since have stayed friends once we're no longer in cubicle land.
Exactly. Now we're neighbors, like literally we're neighbors. So.
Awesome. Real life neighbors. Okay, so before we get started and talking about this year, just really wanted to quickly show that we did this media training last year, and this led to some great results. And just wanted to give a huge shout out to Amanda and Lindsay. And I'm looking at this and now realizing I spelled Lindsay's name wrong. It's with an E. But these are two of the advocates last year who got their story. They watched this broadcast and they got their stories placed in the media. And Lindsay has an incredible story here on the right, in which she reached out to the media in her area and actually learned that the reporter that she'd reached out to actually had narcolepsy herself and hadn't spoken about it until they did this piece together. So that was a really cool story. And just really grateful for them. And so we got 2 stories last year. Personally, my goal is that we get 5 stories in the media this year. So I think with that, I'm handing it over to Kristyn. Talk about Media Relations 101. You're on mute though.
There we go. Okay, so media personnel are always looking for stories that are timely. That's the thing that we care about the most. Like if something is yesterday's news, we don't care about it. We don't have time to focus on that because the news cycle is always changing. So timely doesn't necessarily mean that it's a trending topic, but just that it's interesting and relevant at this time right now. So of course, current events, everyone is talking about COVID-19, but the pandemic is also shining a just broader light on healthcare and health stories in general. And so as we move away from being in like breaking news, COVID coverage all the time, a lot of outlets are becoming more comfortable with sharing stories just from the healthcare space in general, because we're really understanding how important health is after, of course, living through and currently in a pandemic. Another thing that is really important right now is understanding the importance of underrepresented voices. And as people living with a disorder that could be, that's rare, you are underrepresented. And so giving a voice to a group of people who would otherwise be voiceless is something that a lot of newsrooms are actually shifting their focus on, and shifting the way they pick stories and tell stories to make sure that people who are underrepresented have representation, which means that makes stories about narcolepsy timely in that place, as well as like trends. That goes with trends as well. Shock value, that's honestly some things that people like in the media as well. So like long story times about how long it took you to be diagnosed is shocking to some people, or just some of the symptoms that we talk about that aren't normally talked about, but that people with narcolepsy experience every day would be shocking to a person on a daily basis. So something that would make you stop as you're walking past your TV and say, what is that? I never heard of that, or I didn't believe that about narcolepsy. That would be the shock area. And feel good stories and people stories, those go together. So people want to connect with the person. They don't care about numbers. They don't care about statistics. Just from reporting COVID data every day, as I do, I know that people don't care. They don't turn on the story. They're not going to remember that, today in Texas, there are 13,520 people in the hospital with COVID. I remember that because I just wrote the story. I just produced the 6 o'clock newscast, but no one's going to remember that. They don't care. But I ran stories about people living with COVID, moms fighting COVID, and people are going to remember those stories. And they're going to remember the factual tidbits in the story because we were able to put someone's face to the information. And so that's why it's so important for you to understand that you have a story and that it's worth telling, because your face is what we can use to give that information and get the information and data out there. So really also quickly, people say like, the audience doesn't care about this, the audience doesn't care, the news doesn't care about this, the news doesn't care about me. We care about what you care about. And so if you are making it a big enough noise we're going to care, we're going to listen, we're going to see what you're talking about, and we're going to share that with the rest of your community. And just before we go any further, we received so many pitches. So I really want everyone to listen to this and take note of how to make your pitch stand out, because it's really easy for something to get looked over or passed by without us even realizing that we've passed up a great story because it wasn't pitched to us in the proper way. You can. So when it comes time to you building your media list and figuring out who you're going to pitch to, what you want to do is look around at the outlets in your area. So that's newspapers, that's maybe radio stations, that's the local networks. There's probably 4 or 5, depending on where you live. CBS, the Fox, the ABC, the NBC affiliates, those local stations. What you want to do is go on their websites and see what kind of stories they cover, see what kind of things that they like to talk about. If you are an avid watcher, if it's a station that you watch every day, you already know what they like to talk about. And so that you can find the station that you think would be best for you. And it would be really good to follow them on social media. A lot of journalists get their stories through tweets and through Instagram DMs. And even just you posting about World Narcolepsy Day, not even tagging them, a journalist might see it and reach out to you. So you just want to make sure that you're following the right people on social media, and capitalize on your connections. If your niece's husband goes to the doctor with a news anchor, like, ask them, hey, can you send someone? That's how we find stories. We honestly find stories in the grocery store. We find them in the car drop-off line, taking kids to school. Connections are everything. And if you know someone even in 10 degrees of separation, it's a even closer foot in the door than just a cold pitch. And there are certain people at different stations who are dedicated to these types of stories. Those are your health reporters, your medical reporters, and a lot of stations, you can kind of see the person who does like a health story every day, especially now because of the pandemic. That might be who you want to reach out to. Reporters in newspapers have a beat, and it's literally, they cover the same story, the same type of stories every day. They might know your physician. They might be someone who they reach out to. So you want to look for someone who does that. But there are also things on a lot of news stations, community relations and like lifestyle shows. They kind of come on in the morning around the same time as like the Today Show or like other big national shows, but they're local for your city. Those are stations that are always looking for community stories, always looking to show what's happening in your neighborhood. And those people are definitely someone you want to reach out to. I know for a fact that these community shows are always looking for content because their show is based strictly on the neighborhood that you live in. So that's where you want to look.
Hey, Kristyn, really quickly while we're on this, can people start doing this now? I think it seems like we should probably, if people should start trying to figure out some of these contacts sooner rather than later, right?
Definitely. I would say this is the perfect time to start reaching out. You'd never know if the station maybe does healthcare stories on a Thursday, but World Narcolepsy Day this year is on a Wednesday. And if you want them to cover your story, they might have to shift some things around. You never know if they just have a lot of things planned that day for something in your community. So this is a good time. It's not too far out to just get it on their radar. They might not even start talking to you right away, but knowing that you got this in this early is so that they can start making their plan.
Okay, great. So this is where you guys start. And I've done this before, and it's kind of interesting that you can really find these people's email addresses and their Twitter handles. And I don't know, I always thought it would be a little bit more mysterious, but it's not. You really can find people and contacts.
So reaching out, as Julie said, it's not as difficult as you would probably think. And if you've never contacted the news before, thank you, because there are lots of people who figure out how to do this and they send us their craziest stories every day. So if they can find it and send it to us every day, we really want you to. At the bottom of most web pages for like anything, but specifically for outlets, there's a contact us link. It normally says something like tips or send your stories here or talk to us, want to be on the show, whatever. That's normally at the bottom of like every page. So no matter what outlet you go to, that can probably send you to like a certain like form, and you could input your information in a news form, and it goes in like an automated system. But sometimes those can get overlooked because they go into this automated system. So what you might want to look for is an email that which may be in their like Facebook bio or in their social media page bios, an email for the actual station. And that's normally something like, let's say you live in Atlanta, tips at, WBL.com for a station out there or whatever. You want to look for that, and you can send your email as well, or a phone number. A lot of stations still have phone numbers where you can call and talk to someone. It depends on when you call, and it might be a voicemail. So I would say that may be your last resort. If you have access to email, I would definitely try to go through that. And another way to just really make sure that someone, a person, not just an automated system, sees your pitch is contacting a specific person. So as I said, looking at these social media pages and finding, or even on their website, a lot of them have like meet our team or meet our reporters, and they have contact links individually for those people, and you can send them their information.
Kristyn, I know it's kind of a silly question, but you can also reach out to multiple stations, right? You don't have to just choose one, right? You could
definitely.
Yeah.
You can definitely reach out to multiple stations, and I would encourage you to. You can reach out to as many as you want. And this is not a story that I imagine outlets would be like, only talk to us. But if they are like that, then that may be good. That means you're getting at least a guaranteed story because they really want to talk to you. But if you reach out to all the newspapers in your neighborhood and all the stations in your city, and you get 3 of them to talk to you, you get 3 of them to talk to you. So that's a good thing to do. So I would definitely, as many as you can send out, do that. And crafting your pitch. So everything that I've been talking to leads up to this moment right now, when you're getting on the email to type your pitch, to send it in. Because even if you connect to someone over the phone, or you happen to know an anchor or reporter personally, this is what you need to send them. It adds legitimacy to your story, and it also just gives them something to show their newsroom, to prove that this is a real story, and that we have real information to go behind it. So it can't be super long. We don't have a lot of time. So you want to find out what is the most newsworthy part of your story. And for most of us, that is our personal story. If you are a mom, or you are an athlete, or you're a teacher, and you're doing all of these things that you're doing your regular life, but you're living with narcolepsy, that is newsworthy, and that's your story. So you want to lead with that. And you want to make it short, just so that they can read it quickly. And you want to get a good eye-catching subject line. So something like I said, like mom with narcolepsy living in Houston. That's important. People care about mom stories. That's who watches the news, our moms. Or you're a dance instructor living with narcolepsy. These last 2, even if you don't think that you have a story, or you don't think that there's something special about you, I'm here to tell you there is, and I'm not being inspirational. Literally, your life is a story, and it's important to share it. So maybe you want to pitch your story to the news outlet as you were just uncovering a medical mystery, if it took you a long time to be diagnosed, or if you spent a lot of time before your diagnosis dismissing your symptoms. You could be the one for someone who's sitting at home watching the story, who's dismissing their symptoms, to figure out, maybe I should go get some help. So maybe that's the way you want to pitch your story.
And really quickly, guys, in the description of this video, there is a link to your media resources, and it's a Google folder where we've provided a nice thing that you can copy and paste for your pitch. and it's highlighted a few areas where you enter your own information. So all of this is in your media resources Google link that is in the description of this video. So it's here, but it's also in that. So it's a very easy thing. We've already written it for you. So you just, fill in the little highlighted spot. So it won't be too much work. Sorry. Oh yeah, and this is what it is. Sorry. I think I keep getting ahead of us.
Yeah, so you would want to, the pitch on the bottom is the one that we're sending to you. And so you would put your interesting story, something about yourself that you want to give the outlet to talk about you. And then on the rest of our pitch, we have information, key facts about narcolepsy, as well as we'll give you the press release to link. Please make sure that you link the press release. It helps, number one, me, the journalist, be able to find information without having to contact you myself. If I have to do a lot of steps to get information about you before I'm even starting to work on the story, I might have to pass it up because I don't have time. We have deadlines. We turn stories every day. But the key facts at the bottom of the email will be really helpful without even having to look at the press release. But making sure that you include the press release as an attachment adds legitimacy, and that's really important. We get a lot of stories and not all of them are legitimate. Not all of them are things that we can and have the resources to go into. So having something with official letterhead really makes your story stand out. And so this is me, right? Okay. So making sure that you follow up. As I've said, we're really busy. We get a lot of pitches every day. We are at the same time turning in full newscasts, most like 5 or 6 a day, every day. So, or newspapers turning a full paper daily. You want to make sure that you're following up. So after sending this, if you don't hear anything if you send this, let's say tomorrow, you want to make sure that if you don't hear anything by next like Wednesday, that you're following up. You send another email. If you got a phone number, most of these places have a phone number that you can call. That's when you definitely call the number and you want to say, hey, I sent something, I didn't hear anything. Are you still interested? If you don't get a response, that's not necessarily a no. That may be that they just haven't gotten time to your story or they're waiting until closer to the day. So you just want to find out where you stand with these outlets. And the same thing, tweeting them. I can tell you right now, if I was like a story that someone sent me and I hadn't responded to it, but I saw someone tagging us on Facebook or tagging us on Twitter, that kind of puts some fire under us. Like, okay, they're telling everybody out there that we're not responding to them. We need to hurry up and say something. So I would say don't do that in the beginning because you don't want to make the station annoyed with you. That's an easy way to get ignored. But as in with any, dealing with any service, but you definitely want to make sure that you're you're following up and being as engaging as possible. And so when they respond to you, please respond as quickly as you can. Again, if we don't get a response back from you after we send you something, we're going to move on to the next story. So please just try to be as engaging as possible, even if it's something like, hey, they send you an email saying we're interested in doing the story. Hey, I'm working right now and I won't get off until 10 p.m. I can talk to you then. I don't have time to give you any more information right now. Just letting us know, and so that we can tell our managers, hey, this is what's going on right now. And making sure that you are directing whatever outlet to the engaging information that we've given you. So at the bottom of the pitch that Julie was saying in that link, in that sample pitch, we have key facts, we have links to graphics and infographics with information about narcolepsy. We have links to the narcolepsy photo booth, and which could be a visual call to action that the station or could put out to tell people, hey, join in on this World Narcolepsy Day event. And we could also help you with finding, I'm sorry, I just got off work and like my mind just went blank.
That's right. I was thinking, I think what we're meant to hear is that if, sometimes they might want an expert to talk to. And so if you might have your local doctor, but if you can't think of someone or they can't, we're always happy to help to make connections if we can, or also if they want to hear from Project Sleep as an organization, we're happy to do that. So don't be shy. If you're in contact with a media outlet, we have our email in a few different places for you to make sure you reach out to us, and we're happy to help you.
Yes, and that was what I was trying to say. I was saying it and then all the words disappeared from my brain.
All right, that's all right. We have narcolepsy here, we understand. All right. And a perfect time to transition to Kylee sharing about once you have secured an interview. Yay!
So thanks for that, Kristyn. And just one more important point before we start talking about securing an interview and what you do after. Don't get discouraged if you don't hear back from the media. I've been doing this for 8 years now, and more often than not, I don't hear back. So it's a numbers game, and it's having the right pitch at the right time during the right news cycle. So even if you aren't successful this go around, it's still really good practice for next year and for future stories. So definitely keep your aspirations up and high, because 90% of PR is failure, I'm sorry to say. So don't get too discouraged. However, if you do, and when some of you do secure an interview, that's really, really exciting. And like Julie and Kristyn said, please reach out. We are so happy to provide any resources to help make sure that you're prepared and ready to go. So like Kristyn said, it's super important to respond to media immediately as soon as possible if you do hear back. And that's because they're always moving. They're always looking for the next story. If they're not hearing from you, they're trying to fill that slot. So immediately respond, and if you can, have your packaged questions so that you can be prepared for your interview. So things to ask: is this going to be live or recorded? We're in this weird stage of COVID where some things are in person and some things are virtual. So making sure if you're going to be in a studio or if it's going to be via Zoom. News have adopted both methods. So just be clear on what that expectation is. Another thing to consider is how long will the interview be? So if this is for a television interview or a radio spot, these are going to be much, much shorter than, let's say, a written interview, so like a phone interview with your newspaper. So it's important to know how long these are going to take. And if it is TV and you have to go to a studio or radio and you have to go into the studio, that's going to take longer than maybe a Zoom or a phone call. So just knowing the format and the time expectations will be super helpful for you. It's also good to ask who's going to be interviewing you. Just because you pitch somebody, you might pitch a producer, and producers aren't the on-air talent. You could pitch an editor, and an editor is not going to write the story. They're going to assign it to a journalist. So it's really important to know who you're actually going to be speaking with, because you're going to want to research that person, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So another thing that you can ask, or they may ask of you, is do they want to speak with somebody with Project Sleep or a doctor? So that was already discussed previously. If that question comes up, please loop Julie or Kristyn or I in, and we'd be happy to help facilitate another spokesperson. And then, like Kristyn said, the media really, they're busy. They're getting bombarded with information and with people and with questions and asks of them. So you really want to package everything and deliver it to them as seamlessly as possible. So, ensure that you give them the fact sheets, videos, photos, logos, statistics, anything that you can provide them to make their job easier will increase your chance of success. And then, I think on that note, and I think we're providing a one sheet on this as well, is like ensuring that we use the proper people first language. So, a person with narcolepsy versus a narcoleptic, we don't like to use the terminology. And Julie, I know that this is a really important point. So did you have anything else you wanted to add on people first language?
We'll definitely get there later, and I'll explain why we use people first language. But I've learned the hard way to ask these questions up front of the media outlet because I found from my personal experience working with the media that before you've done the interview is your key time where you actually kind of have a little bit of power, and it's not good to be after you've been interviewed. I've found personal experience that the outlet is a lot less communicative with me. They're working on putting the story together and just getting it out. And so this is a good time if you have any specific, things that you don't want to talk about, maybe if there's an aspect of your life that you want to keep private or anything like that, any sort of rules or something that you want to set, be asking those questions in advance, not after the interview.
Yeah. So I would say that anything that you say to a journalist is fair game. So if you don't want something included in a story that's personal, I wouldn't share that with the journalist, because there's a whole process for doing stuff like that, and it's going off the record and going on background, and it's quite complicated. So it's best if you just share only the things you're comfortable being shared public. Would be my recommendation on that. But like Julie said, in her experience, this is kind of a teaching opportunity for you with the media. And that's because the media aren't experts. They're bringing you on because you're the expert. And so you really have to own that title and that narrative. And you're really there as an educational source for their audience. So you want to be as helpful and as insightful as possible. So in order to get there, media prep from this team here is available if you would like it. There's tips and tricks that we're going to go through here, and you can refer back to this webinar. But making sure that you're just prepared for media interaction is really important. And honestly, practice makes perfect. I've prepped a lot of people for a lot of interviews, and to this day, high-level executives like to hop on the phone really quick before an interview, and they're like, let's just talk through some of these questions. I'd like to practice my responses, things like that. So don't be shy about grabbing a friend or a partner, a colleague, and just like running through some questions and practicing how you would respond. And then previously I mentioned it's really important to ask who's going to be interviewing you, because you're going to want to study essentially. So get a feel for the reporter or the journalist, how they like to write, how they like to talk about stories, how they position things. That way, if they're an investigative reporter, maybe they like to throw some curveballs and like pull stuff out of you. That's not really this kind of story, but it's good to know what each person's style is so that you can accommodate it. And at this last point I started with at the beginning, like, you are an expert living with narcolepsy, so be confident. You're here as a resource, you're here to help and to share your story and to raise awareness. And that's really the important thing to remember. The end goal here is to elevate and raise awareness for narcolepsy, for the community, and to give everybody a voice. Next slide, please. So we're just going to run through a few tips and tricks for segments. So if you're doing a video or an on-camera interview, it's important to avoid busy, tight patterns or white tops. White tops, especially if you're in a studio, there's lots of lights and it becomes more see-through than you might have anticipated. And busy, tight patterns sometimes do weird things with camera lenses. So, big prints, solid colors, bright colors are always good. And just make sure your glasses are clean. I've seen some interviews where people have had some smudges. So that's one more thing just to remember. If it's a recorded interview, be sure to reiterate the question in your response. So when I say a recorded interview, that means it's not a live interview. And so what they might do is produce it into a segment. And so what that means is it's not going to be like Julie, Kristyn, and I were talking to each other, we're interacting, you're seeing the whole interaction. But what they might do is take a snippet of what you're saying and then slice it with some other film, maybe some B-roll, maybe some just commentary from their end. And so what I mean by this, by repeating the question, is if they say, "What is your name?" and you just say my name, and you just say Jane Doe, they can't really just use you saying Jane Doe. They want you to say, my name is Jane Doe, if that makes sense. So making sure you reiterate questions in your responses. And then also keeping your answers short. You want really good, snappy sound bites. So talking in everyday language that the layman can understand is really, really important, because you want to speak to the lowest person in the room, so to speak. So just like super simple, non-technical, non-medical language so that everybody understands what you're saying. Always, I wouldn't say always, I'll say smile and be aware of facial expressions, even when you're not speaking. However, if you're talking about something sad or something that's, devastating or hurtful, you want to make sure that your emotions are matching what you're talking about. So you don't want to say, it took me 10 years before I got my diagnosis. Your body language isn't really matching like the dire situation. So making sure that your body language matches the conversation and tone is really important. And at the same time, if a journalist happens to slip up and say something insensitive, it's really important that you keep your composure and act professionally in all instances. It's really disappointing when that happens and really, really hurtful. And making sure that you stay calm and collected, and maybe having a conversation after as an educational moment is important, but especially if you're on camera, just remembering that you represent Project Sleep and also yourself. And it's a difficult situation, and it was more than likely a mistake. They probably didn't mean to hurt or offend, but there's always an opportunity to kindly correct during the conversation. So if they happen to say, narcoleptic people, you can always say, well, actually, we don't like to lead with the disease. We are individuals, we are people. So we are people living with narcolepsy, and then go into the conversation. Remember, posture is super important, whether it's on a Zoom or whether it's in person. So sit up, and I've actually been rocking, so that's not a very good example. I always tell clients that if you're doing a Zoom interview or presentation, to replace your office chair with like a kitchen chair that doesn't swivel, and that will avoid this rocking motion. And then try not to reference your notes while you're speaking. You can have some bullet points just to kind of direct the conversation, but don't read word for word from a screen. Okay.
Sorry, just one thing to what you're saying about the patterns. Like, I just see that my pattern is bad but I do not go on camera, so I can do whatever I want at the news station. I wear whatever, but it's something that's not on here because you might not be in person in a lot of cities, but some cities are. They might bring you into the studio, especially if you're doing like a live segment. Mm-hmm. Don't wear green. A lot of news stations have green chroma key walls, and we use that to make it disappear. So anything in green will not exist on camera, so that we can do graphics and things live on air. So you will just be a talking head. And some stations might have a different set for you if you have something green on. But I remember I first started in a small city, and we did a Christmas interview, and the lady had green circles right here on like wreaths, and those were in like clear. So she just had 2 see-through circles on her chest, and there was nothing that we could do because we had to do the interview, and it just looks bad. And some people might tell you, I'm sorry, we can't do this at all today. So just avoid green if you're going to be going into a studio. But if you're at home or they're shooting your interview somewhere like not in the news station, you'll be fine to wear green.
Yeah, good point, Kristyn. That's a very good point. Thankfully, I haven't ran into that one, but I'll, once we start doing more in-person stuff, that'll be on my tips and tricks moving forward. So just a couple more things. So if you are in person and you're interviewing, just remember to look at the person that is interviewing you and not the camera. Sometimes you'll be watching segments and people are doing this and talking to the person interviewing them, and they're just like a doe or a deer in headlights. So remember, like, you're interacting with the person next to you, not with the camera. Just act like it's not even there. And then for virtual, there's a couple more things that you need to remember, because you need like a strong internet connection, good lighting and camera framing. All three of us have a pretty good background. Kristyn's might be a tidbit dark, but you know, in terms of like where your face is positioned, and none of us just have plain white backgrounds. Those aren't good. You want something that's a little more dynamic. So you know, just a clean, dynamic, well-lit space is good. And then ask the outlet if they want headphones or a microphone. Some of them like the earpods, some of them say it's fine, you don't need it if you have a good camera or a good microphone, excuse me. So it's good, though. More than likely they'll send you like some best practices or things to check beforehand, but it's good just to be aware before going into the interview. Next slide. So after your interview, it's important to be super gracious. We've said this a few times, but the media, they're busy. They're really short-staffed. There's a lot being asked of them right now. So like, just be gracious when they do take the time to interview you. Leave a good taste in their mouth, and next time you reach out, there's a better chance that they'll respond. They'll remember you. And a note that just to go back one step, you won't be able to see recorded interviews prior to them airing. And even if you do like a newspaper segment or an online article, I will say 97% of the time, they're not going to ask you to review the article. And if they do, it's for factual checks only. You won't be allowed to go back and maneuver and edit things in and out. So just be mindful of that. Like I said, follow up with your contacts at the station, and let them know that we're super thankful. And then keep us posted on if you secure interviews and coverage. We're super excited. We're in your corner. We can't wait to see the things that come out of this. So, and of course, I know Julie loves to promote these things on the Project Sleep channels. So let us know and we'll amplify as much as we can. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Julie.
Thank you, Kylie. So I hope we haven't intimidated you guys too much. Thank you for tuning in. If you do schedule an interview, it's really, really an exciting time, and just be in touch. These are some of the key messages that I use. I find, I think we have Rachel here who's watching. Rachel said, I feel so dumb and lost on how to begin. Rachel, you are one of the best advocates I know. I don't want you to feel intimidated. You know this stuff. I see you post about it on Instagram. You know these facts, you know your own story, and that's what's most important. But I also just think, like we said before, you know a lot more about narcolepsy than the people that are interviewing you. So I keep a few key messages on a Post-it near me, because remember that the person might not even realize that there are other symptoms of narcolepsy besides sleepiness. They might think that it is like a Deuce Bigalow, male gigolo kind of condition. So if you're in an interview and they just ask you about sleepiness and you just respond about sleepiness, you might actually leave, and then you might go, oh, wait, well, I forgot to mention, they never asked me about cataplexy. Well, they didn't maybe realize to even ask you about cataplexy. So I keep these 3 messages in mind to make sure that I get to some things that I think the media might not quite know, including that it's not actually all that rare. 3 million people around the world have narcolepsy. And so that affects 1 in every 2,000 people. About 200,000 Americans and 3 million worldwide. So if you're in a different country, I think we have some folks tuned in from other countries. There should be, hopefully you can find a statistic for the prevalence of narcolepsy in your country. But let us know if you can't. We can try to find some information like that for you. But it's about 1 in every 2,000 around the world is the prevalence. So, and we do have this all on fact sheets for you in your media resources. That it's more than just falling asleep, that there are other complex and scary conditions. If you have cataplexy, I think it's a pretty important thing to make sure that you mention during your interview. If you have hypnagogic hallucinations or sleep paralysis around sleep, mentioning those experiences, what it felt like to maybe feel like a burglar was breaking in and attacking you. That is important to mention, or to bring up brain fog, or how hard it is to even realize that you're living with sleepiness, that you could be so sleepy and not remembering what's happening, but your eyes could be open. So bring up some of those other aspects of the experience that the reporter may not realize about narcolepsy. And we have this statistic here, 8 to 15 years is the average amount of time that it takes for someone with narcolepsy experiencing symptoms to get an accurate diagnosis. It's a very long time. And it's important for you to know how long your delay to diagnosis was. So do the math. I know sometimes it's hard to remember exactly what year it was, but look back, try to find that number and think about how long you experienced. And even if you can't identify exactly, like I think I was 18 or 19 years old when my symptoms started, and I was diagnosed at 24. So I've just kind of decided it's 6 years. It was 6 years after I started symptoms before I got diagnosed. And I think that's just an important number for you to know for yourself as you talk to the media. And then of course, these more general averages. So I have those little points usually in front of me. And, sometimes you'll be asked at the end of an interview, is there anything else you want to talk about or mention? And so it's good to have some good takeaways for people to realize that, they're not alone with narcolepsy, and always to direct them to more information. Because you never want to watch a segment and be like, geez, I learned a little bit about narcolepsy, but I don't know where to go to learn more. So letting them know that there's more information at projectsleep.com. And also, if someone could think that they could have narcolepsy or a loved one could have narcolepsy, to consult a sleep specialist. That's what I always try to tell people, is to get to a sleep specialist to see if them or their loved one might have narcolepsy. So just a few health communications best practices. Project Sleep it encourages the use of people first language, as we mentioned a few times, and also using precise and neutral language to respect the autonomy of different people. That we all have such different stories, and it's important to kind of remember that when we talk to the media as well. And also using an upbeat tone. So we'll go through those really quick. People first language is putting the person before the language. So here are the different options for language choice. Disease only language, a narcoleptic, disease first language, a narcoleptic person, or people first language, a person with narcolepsy. So the reason that we use person first language at Project Sleep is because it's actually been studied. There's research about this that shows that audiences hold more stigmatized attitudes when condition first languages are used. So this has been studied in other disease areas, including the word choice of disabled people versus people with disabilities, the mentally ill versus people with mental illness, epileptics versus people with epilepsy. And those are really interesting studies that show, even across various languages, that when you use that condition first language, the general audience, general people have a harder time wanting to be close, wanting to empathize. And we're all about increasing empathy and understanding and bridging connections that we are often very much like other people. We're, students, we're employees, we're mothers, we're daughters, but we just happen to live with narcolepsy. Using a balanced and firsthand perspective. So it's really good to avoid language like everyone with narcolepsy, or no one, or always, this is how it is, or never how it is. That language probably just isn't true. Everyone I met with narcolepsy has such a different experience. So the only thing that is true, like everyone with narcolepsy does experience excessive daytime sleepiness. That is the cardinal symptom of narcolepsy. So you could feel pretty confident saying that. But besides that, just trying to avoid some of those really broad language choices, but saying things like, in my experience, from my perspective, not everyone's the same, but for me, it's my understanding that those are good things, because often maybe the media, maybe you'll get a question like, do you drive with narcolepsy? Great question. Do they want to know if I, Julie Flygare, drive, or do they want to know if people with narcolepsy drive in general? Well, that might be two different things, right? So I often say, well, in my experience, I am able to drive, and I'm very careful about, how long I drive and when I drive. But it's important to know that not everyone with narcolepsy has that same experience. Some people choose to drive and some people choose not to. So that can be a good way of making sure you're answering both for yourself, and that also saying, but there's a variety of experiences. Oh, and I guess that's the point there at the bottom. So remembering there is a bigger group of people, and that's why it's important to point out that maybe you have an experience and that's valid, but also that different people's experiences vary. So yeah, here are some of the language choice we prefer, you know, people, adults, children with narcolepsy, living with narcolepsy diagnosed. We try to avoid some of this more heavily toned language like narcolepsy sufferers, suffering from narcolepsy afflicted, because not everyone might identify as suffering with narcolepsy. So it's just important that we're not putting words in other people with narcolepsy's mouth, if that makes sense. So we use more neutral terms. And using an upbeat tone, you know, it helps to establish trust, I think, and helps to avoid inducing anxiety and discomfort in your audience. That doesn't mean that you have to be all super perky, like Kylie said. It's not about saying like, it took me 10 years to get diagnosed. Like that's a good thing. That's not what I mean. But I think that showing that you can still find pride in your experience of, you know, saying, I'm proud that I'm raising my voice for World Narcolepsy Day, or I'm proud that I am able to be a mother with narcolepsy. Finding something that you can say, like, you're sort of the hero of the story, bringing positive energy in that way is good. You know, narcolepsy can be the bad guy for sure, but finding some positivity in your story, and I think that's often because you guys are all superheroes. You're like, anyone who's overcoming the adversity of narcolepsy daily is amazing. So you can lean into that in a positive way, and a way of taking pride in what you're doing, and being part of World Narcolepsy Day efforts. So just a few other ways to get involved, of course. Thank you. I know this is great. I hope that you guys have found this informational, but if there's other things that you can always do, if you're super gung-ho, once you finish reaching out to all your media outlets, you could always share your story on a blog platform like Medium, or via social media. I think some of the posts that I see people post around World Narcolepsy Day, sharing more about their experience, is just so cool. And you really never know who you'll reach. So there's really a lot of power in doing different things. Of course, got to mention the virtual photo booth. If you haven't taken your photos yet in the booth, I know some of you guys have though, including Brittany who's watching, and Rachel, and I think some other folks on here have participated in the booth. So thank you for taking your photos and sharing those on social media. And I think, like Kristyn said earlier, you could even tag some of the news stations, maybe when you share your photo on social media, and that could be great for just kind of coming up on their radar again. And if you've enjoyed sharing your story, please consider joining Rising Voices of Narcolepsy next summer. We love training advocates on sharing their story via presentations and writing and media. So that's just this is a crash course, but there is a longer version where we help support people to write their stories and share their stories. Did you guys have any last takeaways? Right here we have the Google Drive folder. It's in the description of this video. Please go ahead and check on that link and see. Rachel asked, how do I write the pitch? Rachel, if you go, there's a link in the description of this video, right to this Google Drive folder. It has your pitch template. All you have to do is copy and paste it. So go ahead and check out that link, and I'll make sure you get it after this as well. In that link, there is the slide deck, there's the narcolepsy fact sheet, there's frequently asked questions. So we've put together a great little folder for you with everything you need. The press release, it's all right there. Did you guys have any last takeaways before we head out?
I just wanted to say, number one, in our key facts, we also listed something about the Mysterious Benedict Society, which is a new show that's out on Disney Plus, and it is about, I think that Julie should say what it's about, because I'm going to be honest, I did not watch the kids show. But the reason why we included that in there is because I'm sure so many of you have seen there's a lot of depictions of narcolepsy in pop culture, but they are rarely depicted accurately. And those kind of things are reasons for why someone like me would think I can't have narcolepsy because I don't fall asleep in the middle of my soup at a dinner table. And that can lead to delays in diagnosis. So it's important that we bring that up because the show doesn't depict narcolepsy as accurately as it could. And so just mentioning little things like that to your whoever you're reaching out to could be really helpful. I was talking to one of my anchors and she was talking to me and she was like, why do I know what the word cataplexy is? She was like, I don't know why I know that. And then she goes, oh, my kids watch Mysterious Benedict Society. And so those kind of things are good for raising awareness, but we want to make sure that we're raising awareness accurately and truthfully. So if you can even tie something in like that with pop culture, that's just one more thing to get the outlet to say like, oh wow, like they're talking about this on Disney Plus, like there's something that maybe we should cover this story.
And so this is just to share really quickly, this is the media resource folder that we've linked to. So you guys all have access to this. And this is right here, the sample pitch that we've put together for you. So you just have to, kind of put in your own subject line, and then you can just copy and paste this, all of this into an email. And that's what Kristyn's mentioning here. We've created there's a bullet here. It says about the Hollywood portrayals here. And including the Mysterious Benedict Society. So this pitch email, all you have to do is fill in these little parts about yourself. So I know everyone's sleepy, but it is not that impossible to fill in those few highlighted sections here and just copy and paste all of this into an email. Make sure you attach the press release and send it off. So hopefully it's not too intimidating to get started and send this off to a few stations in your area. So just quickly wanted to show you guys that media resources folder that we've put together for you. Here's the press release right here. Here's the slides that we went over today. Here's some frequent asked questions, the flyers, and the logos. Sorry, I know, Kristyn, you said you had a few things too. So is there something else you wanted to mention?
I just wanted to say, like, as Kylee was saying, we are not the experts. We have to know a lot. We have to know a little about a lot of things. And honestly, most of the people that you're going to talk to know absolutely nothing about this thing that we're talking about narcolepsy. So I would say coming as prepared as you can, but also understanding that like it is our job to help people craft their stories, and we're not intimidating, and we're not trying to get your story wrong. We're not trying to twist your words. We're not trying to slant your story in any way. We're really just trying to get facts out there. And yes, there are some news outlets that are slanted on both sides of like the aisle, but that's not what this is. This is not a political story. This is your life. And it's your story, and it's important to be able to share it. And like something that I say at my station all the time, because I'm always fighting for underrepresented stories, like for so many people, the stories that we are covering are not just stories, like these are our lives. Our words are our lives. And so just like going into this, knowing the power that you have can really help you connect more with the journalist, because I'm aware of the power that I have, both as a person with a story and a person who tells people stories. And so if you guys can just get with someone and match that power together, it's going to be great.
Kylee, did you have any last takeaways for folks?
Just like Kristyn said, be confident, you're the expert, and you're not alone. Obviously you have us and your community behind you. So this is, we appreciate and are excited for all these efforts, and we look forward to your success.
I just wanted to mention, Diana had a great question here asking, are there any examples of realistic representations of narcolepsy in the media? That's a really great question. And we did feature on a previous broadcast, Anna Marr, who is working on creating a series about her experience living with narcolepsy as a comedian in New York City. And so that's one of the pieces I'm aware of that is a person with narcolepsy writing and producing about their experience. So It's called Walking Through Peanut Butter, if you want to Google that. And it's not available to watch yet publicly, but it will be soon. So definitely check out her efforts to try to bring a real representation. There are a few books. I wrote a book, Crisp's book From a Parent's Perspective, Henry Nichols' book. Those are three wonderful books that I think are real representations, but hopefully we can do better in the in Hollywood and movie and TV representations in the future. So just wanted to mention that. And I just can't wait to see these stories. Our goal is to get 5, but I don't know, maybe we'll exceed our goal. You guys have the power, and it's so satisfying to watch, to actually get these engagements secured. And I really think with this template we've put together, you guys are all going to secure engagements, and we just can't wait to hear from you about them. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and say good night. Thank you, Brian, for tuning in. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Juan. You guys are great. Thank you, everybody. So we will see you again soon. Bye for now. Thank you, Kylie, and thank you, Kristyn.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.